The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to K4Wins, K4Wins.com. Go to our website. It's absolutely free. Subscribe. You get all of our plays up, and we're doing quite well. Thank you very much. As the first day of March Madness continued, the SEC now 4-3 in the first 7 games. According to the NCAA and ESPN, less than 1% of all brackets are still perfect. And of course, one of those games, and normally we'd have somewhere around 3 to 4%, so that's really a low number. But that Louisville loss really screwed a lot of people over yesterday. Half the brackets went down when Creighton beat up Louisville. Now, of course, Creighton catching 9.5 against the number 1 overall seed and the Auburn Tigers. Gonzaga punched their ticket for the 10th straight second weekend. McNeese, a game that we all loved, got it done against Clemson. And, of course, they won pretty much wire to wire, up 18 at halftime. Now a team that's lost to Bama by 8. They lost to Mississippi by 3. And now they've knocked off Clemson. UC San Diego didn't quite get it done against Michigan. It's been, and of course, we got a full slate of games going on today. Liberty's going to be in there. I've got them going to a Sweet 16. Oklahoma, can they knock off the double defending national champion UConn Huskies? We get the Antelopes paying. And then we've got a full slate of games on Saturday that are already set. McNeese, Purdue, Arkansas, St. John's, Michigan A&M, Drake at Texas Tech, Creighton, Auburn, BYU, Whiskey, Zags, Houston, which should be a great game, and UCLA and Tennessee, which I'll be at to get into Saturday. Kai Gregory up in the left-hand corner. He's the man, the myth, the legend. You like him, love, can't live without him. He knows everything about gambling from both sides of it. Case Keefer, executive director, editor. Your hair's looking good this morning, man. It's a little early out there. Is it not early out there in Las Vegas?
Yeah, man, I've just been barely any sleep with this. I'm trying to get down. I just saw Zion ruled out. I'm trying
you just got done doing
to squeeze in a Timberwolves bet, and everyone's closing it, so I missed it. But yeah, it's back to the grind. Not much sleep since championship week.
Our apologies. To never sleep in Las Vegas anyway. He's at the Las Vegas Sun, does wonderful work, and of course, Kip Keefer, my good friend and my partner in crime, does a wonderful job at starting lineup. A show you can check out Saturday mornings, 10:30, 11 o'clock on ABC 3340. That's the 4Wins, K4Wins.com. Case, let's go to you first. Get you before you fall asleep. What surprises have you had so far, and how much are you looking forward to the games here on this Friday and, of course, Saturday as we do this game and this show on March 21st?
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun to see more of these teams in action. Biggest surprises, nothing really truly blew me over on day one. I think, like you said, a lot of us liked McNeese. They got it done despite a sloppy second half. Now they go into a game with Purdue. I actually, it was a slight loser for me on the first day, which is, you probably can't believe if you read like LasVegasSun.com, where I handicap every game. I think I hit more than I lost, even betting too, but a couple just of the bigger ones didn't go my way. A couple blowouts I was on the wrong end of. A couple really heartbreakers went the other way. That first game you mentioned, which I know sunk a lot of people. Of course, it probably never again this whole tournament, or maybe not for tournaments to come. 3.5 points at closing line value. I had Louisville pick them, and they never had a chance. So that set me back.
Damn.
So
that was weird too.
Yeah, it was a really close back and forth first day, but little bit of a loser for me. So hoping to bounce back and have a winning Friday and Saturday. I've already made a bunch of bets on openers on Saturday's slate, which I know we're mainly going to be talking about today. So see how that goes.
Kip, you had the play of the millennium. I think it was called the play of the millennium on K4Wins on Gonzaga against Georgia. It looked like the SEC were done. Like at the first couple of days, they're 4-3, 7 more teams going here today. You had the Zags going the second weekend. They did it for the 10th straight time. Now they're catching 4.5 against a Houston squad. Obviously, it's a very, very good team. And on top of that, Creighton, who of course knocked off that Louisville squad, catching 9.5 against another SEC team in the Auburn Tigers. That looks like it's way too many, or Auburn's going to blow them out. Someone knows something that I don't know about. That's the highest line in the Saturday forecast. Surprises for you. Congratulations on the Zags pick.
Well, I after watching Georgia's dreadful performance in the SEC tournament against Oklahoma, where they just didn't play at all like the team that finished the season on a 4-game win streak, including a big win over the Florida Gators that really got them back to the dance for the first time. Florida's been absolutely dominant since that game. I think it pissed them off. But the bottom line is Georgia just wasn't ready for prime time. I said it all year. I was extremely surprised when they put together that 4-game winning streak. They had not won a game on the road in the SEC all year and then managed to win back-to-back ones down the stretch. But it just was a team that I just didn't believe was tournament ready. I'm still not a Mike White guy. I think he's made some progress, but and when they drew Gonzaga, I mean, this is a team that's like brings their briefcase to the tournament. They're not there to play basketball. This is this is a business trip, and it's just a team that's so accomplished, and I knew that was going to be such a formidable challenge for Georgia. And the other indicator, and I mentioned on our broadcast at the end of last week, I was disturbed how Texas coughed up the lead. Xavier is a very good team, a really historically very tough out in the tournament. But for Xavier, a middling team from the Big East to take down that Texas team who won 2 games in the SEC tournament, I even said last week that might be an indicator that the bottom of the SEC is not as strong as we thought. We know how tough the top tier is, but the bottom teams, middling teams of the SEC did have some wins over the big boys, but just not as good as maybe we estimated. And Missouri's loss even kind of proved that even further. So I just felt like Gonzaga was just the ultimate bet yesterday. They were only given 4.5. And I think the other thing, Case and I talked about it on our starting lineup segment yesterday, that it's to me, how can Gonzaga be an 8? They didn't have that bad a decline. I mean, this is Gonzaga. They're the tournament tested team. And the fact that they're only 4.5 against Houston, which many people picked to win this whole thing, that's not what a typical 8 against 1 game is. So I think that shows the committee did a good job overall, but I think they really seeded Gonzaga poorly, put them way too high.
Kai, your Tennessee squad looked good against Wofford. They got that first victory. You just get that first weekend. You should win that ball game. Alabama should win against Robert Morris, despite the fact that Robert Morris has got the best ATS this season at 26-7 against the spread. They're favored by 21.5. I was happy for Auburn fans because they had lost 3 of their last 4, but they lost to 3 top 12 teams. So, I mean, that should tell you something right there on how good the Auburn Tigers are. But any surprises for you going into the first full day slate? Of course, we're getting ready for this Friday, and then, of course, all the games on Saturday that we'll break down here in a second. What you got?
Well, we were talking about it before we went on. My bracket looks good. I was 14-2. I missed Kansas and I missed Drake. I had Missouri and Kansas, for those 2 picks. But, we posted Alabama State plus 32.5. Easy cover. We had Wofford plus 18.5 versus Tennessee. Easy cover. Did some good things there. Even had a college baseball pick up there yesterday, even though it broke my heart. We had Alabama, plus 35 on the money line, who got it done against Tennessee yesterday. As far as the basketball, even thinking about the Texas game, I was really disappointed in the second half, especially the coaching for Texas. I thought it was horrendous in that game, letting Xavier come back. I feel like that was more of a Texas collapse than an Xavier win. So I'm probably not going to be on Xavier in that next one. But I don't think today is going to be a great day for the SEC. And if it is, then my bracket's in trouble because I've got St. Mary's over Vanderbilt. I know that. I do kind of like Tennessee -4 in their matchup, 4.5. In case I was wondering what Minnesota line you saw go down, because I just got it. I had it at 15 for the NBA game you were talking about for the T-Wolves. I don't know if that was different. I looked at it as soon as you said something about it. So there was that. I like, and I know it's probably going to be over by the time this goes up. I've flipped back and forth on a couple of games. I went from loving Ole Miss against North Carolina matchup to now, Case and I were talking about it. I'm on North Carolina where he's going to Ole Miss. I like Lipscomb getting the points they get. I don't think they're going to win the game, but I like how many points they're getting there. And I love what the committee has done for us going into Saturday. They wanted Calipari and Patino. The committee did. They set us up for that. We got it. One of the games that I'm shocked, the BYU-Wisconsin game, the over-under is only 154 points for that game. That is, I thought that was going to be a 170, 175, and it is so much lower than I thought. Once again, Tony, maybe somebody knows something I don't know, because I would have bet over 175. So of course I've already played the over 154.
Yeah, Case, and that's really interesting because when I was talking to Kip yesterday, I love playing over-unders, and I'm an over guy. I'm one of those guys that plays over a lot because when you play an over, you're always in the game. Once you lose your over or your under, you're done for the day. So no matter how many OTs you go to, you always have a shot. What have you seen from over-unders? And to me, it just seems like, because I like to for entertainment purposes only, pick ball games and put some money down on some NCAA games. And it seems like every time I bet an over, the under comes in. It comes in a lot more. And I don't know if these are teams that are feeling each other out. They're not used to seeing these teams. I don't know if it's for the neutral floor. A lot of people say it's because of the venue they're playing in, because they're playing in much larger venues than they're normally playing in the 3,000 and 4,000 or 5,000 seat venues on campus. But what do you see from an over-under standpoint when March Madness hits the court?
Yeah, personally, I don't play a ton of totals, especially in college basketball. There's just I'm still betting a lot of other sports too, so there's only just so much. I can only so many hours in the day, I guess. So I don't go super crazy. Maybe starting next weekend when we have fewer games, I'll look at it. But I think you nailed it. I do definitely. I'm kind of the opposite of you. I definitely bet more unders than overs when I do play them. Although I think this postseason I only have one under, and it was in an NIT game with some injuries, and I think it was over by halftime. I think I lost by like 45 points. But I think you nailed a lot of the theories, or I don't know what to call them, philosophies. Like I know some people that bet them pretty heavily that are looking really just how some of these venues are playing. Certainly the cavernous venues that we will get to next weekend for the regionals and the Final Four. The talk is that it's always unders because it messes up kind of your depth perception, your shooting. And another big thing that I know, some of the stuff I roll my eyes at, and I've never dug into the data. I really looked at the studies to know if it's true, but a lot of people swear by these unders in these early games where it's still morning, your body clock's not really adjusted to playing this early. Sometimes at these sites where there's 4 games a day, if you get the right matchup, if there's not a North Carolina or a Kansas or one of these schools that travel a ton, it's kind of sleepy and not a lot of energy in the room. So I do know people that make a lot of money doing this that I do consider sharp, that like unders just in the cavernous venues and like it just early in the morning. And I think a lot of it goes back to the sites. I saw something yesterday. Again, I don't bet totals, so I don't know how this worked out, but I saw someone really respected in the college basketball community. If you follow injuries and stuff, you might know who it is. When they saw the Wichita rims, I guess, were really soft and just everything was going in an early game. So that's the type of thing I think people pick up on and say, okay, maybe something's going on in Wichita that they see in the first game. Then the next couple games they bet overs. So not something I really dabble a lot in, but there's definitely some edges there, or some perceived edges that I think some professional bettors attack.
When you see, because you see a lot more games than we normally do, when you see a top offensive squad against a top defensive squad, and we saw that with Drake yesterday. I brought that up as a useless Tony Curry fact. Drake had the best defense in all of college basketball as far as in points per game yesterday, and of course they showed their mustard again in the game yesterday. When you have a top offense against a top defense, we know what usually happens in college football. What usually happens in basketball? First question. Go there. Give me an answer there first.
Yeah, I guess I always forget the old cliche. What is it? That it's
defense always wins championships. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the thing about how it's always hard to me, it's in basketball, it's more about pace. So, but it works though. I think most of these more defensive teams want to slow the game down, and the more offensive teams want to speed it up. I can't remember if people say that it's easier to slow down a team than speed them up, or vice versa. But that's really what I'm trying to do first of all.
To slow it down.
Yeah, yep. I'm trying to establish what pace the game's going to be played at. And then when it's offense versus defense, usually slow versus fast. I feel like whoever gets to implement their style has a leg up. I think Missouri Drake's a great example, and I was wrong in that game. I know you nailed it with Drake, so good on you. I just felt like Missouri had such an athletic edge, and this is something I talk about a lot at tournament times. I think usually the talent wins out. That I thought if they got up and down and run and got up, I don't feel like Drake has the personnel to come back. But the flip happened. I mean, Drake slowed them down, was like lethal in the half court. It seems like frustrated them. They never did trail, so that was definitely the script that I saw Drake winning. They hit that. So yeah, to me, I'm more thinking about the pace and kind of similar to football, the game script. I guess there's teams like in college football that you just don't want playing from behind. I think a lot of times these defensive teams that want to slow it down, you don't want playing from behind. So I think the number one thing with that for me is just figuring out what pace the game is going to be contested at, how many possessions they're going to be. and then how that translates to who's going to win or lose.
I saw a fantasy line earlier this morning. If Drake was playing North Texas, the over-under would be 103.5.
I believe it.
And I hate North Texas. I think their coach is great, but I mean, they slow it down. They don't do anything till about 12 seconds left. And by then, you're so damn tired and you get so impatient, you end up letting some of those backdoor screens. And man, when they use the entire clock and get an easy bucket, that just demoralizes your defense. Other question, and we can go around the horn here on this. Halftime bets. Kai and I were sitting there watching the Louisville Creighton game. He's giving me the updates while we did the TV show yesterday. And he tells me the halftime line is Louisville -5. I've always been told by some of the sharper guys that if you're going to make a halftime bet, you should normally play the halftime bet according to the way the first half was going. In other words, if Louisville's getting blown out and they're not going to cover, go against them in the second half, because everyone wants to take Louisville and go, well, they're definitely going to even the score up, right? They're down by 18.5. There's no way Louisville's not going to come back and win that second half. Well, they only won by 1 in the second half yesterday. They didn't cover the 5. What do you normally do? I mean, we've had 30 or 20 minutes, depending on what game we're watching, to figure some teams out. And then all of a sudden, we're going to go the opposite direction at halftime. Kip, what do you do when you do halftime bets?
I think there were some classic halftime opportunities yesterday when teams that you were shocked. I mean, Clemson scored 13 points in the first half. You know that's not going to continue. And McNeese is going to get lazy. I'm not lazy, but careful on the lead. Those kind of games are no-brainers, and I guess it just depends. I have no idea what the second half line on Clemson McNeese was, but it was a blowout. They were down 18, and they lost by 2. One of the best... and I'm not a very accomplished sports bettor, but I was happening in Vegas for a NCAA final years ago. It was North Carolina against Illinois when Illinois was just a fantastic team that year. I think they were a 7-point favorite in the finals. And at halftime, North Carolina had a 9-point lead. I went and made probably the biggest bet I had ever made at that time on Illinois, plus like 4, or I think they were -4 or 4.5 in the second half, and they end up losing by 1 point and covered easily. So I think those are opportunities to pounce on. I guess the hard part is that you have to have access to be able to do that and be able to get that line. And you guys are probably more tied in than me, more of just the kind of TV and iPad viewer. But if there are services readily available and those lines come up quick enough to you can react, I think that's a really good way, because you can sense a lot about what goes on in the first half of a game and pretty accurately forecast what the second half should entail.
You probably should, and Kai, you're kind of making kind of weird face. You go to Kai's house and it looks like the Caesar sports book.
Well, see, I don't have access to Caesar's Palace in Birmingham like some of our privileged hosts.
He's got 23 TVs and he's got his own window at his house. Pretty amazing stuff. You do a lot of halftime bets. What do you see, Kai?
Well, I mean, I think first off, for people that are watching, the biggest mistake, in my opinion, and Case can talk to this, that a lot of gamblers make, is let's say they've got in a football game, they've got a team, -3, and they're down by 3 at halftime. Well, they go in and they chase a bad bet a lot of times. They're not considering the game and what's going on, or somebody's gotten hurt. Or if you've got a Detroit Lions team in the NFL, which, yes, college basketball and NFL is different. Detroit Lions team that's averaging 40 points a game, and they put up 7 points in the first half, and you see a over-under line at 23.5 on their team total in the second half, stay the heck away from that if you've already bet the over for the game. All you're doing is doubling up your loss more than likely.
There you go.
Because if they're going to get you got to look at it. If you have a team -3 and whatever the halftime line is just gets you right back to there, Vegas is trying to tell you, don't be stupid. But people do it a lot, in my opinion. I don't like making plays or halftime bets that just get you right back to your original bet. If you're getting right back to your original bet, why are you playing the game? Yeah. Unless you just think somebody's going to come out and just absolutely destroy them. If you were going against or McNeese, yesterday, obviously, okay, ride that. I can see that. But my halftime lines is more, especially in college basketball, the tournament. It's because I'm watching it, because they're all 4 TVs will be going when there's 4 games going, and watching all 4 yesterday. Because at one point yesterday, I was watching 4 basketball games in the NCAA tournament and the Alabama-Tennessee baseball game at the same time.
There you go. Case, you're Grand Zero. And I would think that the smart bettors would play more halftime lines than actual game lines, do they?
I would say no, not so much. Especially in this day and age. I used to play a little bit more before I bet a lot. Now I don't get super into it. It's just tough. I do think there's opportunities there, certainly. But I also think there's a lot of confirmation bias. Like, you see, oh, this team's getting blown out in the first half, so they're going to cover the second. Well, I don't know. It doesn't always work out that way. I do feel like if you're sitting in front of a bunch of TVs, like at Kai Caesars down there, and you're really locked into some of these games, then it's okay. But I'd say the reason why it's declined overall is because, I mean, now all these games you can bet at basically any second or definitely any break. I mean, the live betting, there's lines up constantly. Like when I first moved here, when I first started sports betting, it was basically like pregame betting and second half betting. I mean, now there's live lines up for everything. So I think the people that are really good at adjusting to what's happened so far and fitting that with pregame, expectations, they can fire at the first media timeout or whatever. You don't necessarily just have to wait until halftime. So usually when I'm using halftime lines at this point, it'll be if I have a really big bet on something I feel strongly and I'm kind of arbing the other side. I won't say I never like double down like Kai said on the same side, but it has to be like something super crazy where I feel really good about the types of things I would look for. There were two games in the first couple days where I can't believe I didn't bet something live or at halftime. So I felt like I definitely saw why it's going. One game we've talked a ton about, Xavier, Texas. I feel like I handicapped that game perfectly and still lost money because I think Texas has the better players. I think if we drafted right now, if it was two of us coaching against each other, I think we'd be fighting over the right to get Texas. But I just thought Xavier had such a huge advantage on the bench. And I think you saw it play out that they looked like they made second half adjustments. I think Miller's so much better than Terry. So I really wish I had bet some Texas plus 3.5. I wish I had come back in on Xavier because I really saw that comeback coming. I probably didn't think they were going to end up winning by 6. And then the other one, that's something I look for that I can't believe I didn't bet at halftime yesterday, was the UC San Diego Michigan game, which I really thought in the first half. And there's numbers to back this up too. I know it's a subscription site, but Shot Quality now is a site that really informs a lot of the market. It really seemed like San Diego was getting just as good as shots as Michigan. They were getting layups and they were just clanking. I mean, they were just missing everything. I don't know if it was nerves, if they just had a bad time to have their absolute worst 20 minutes of the season. But when it's that type of thing where like, okay, this team doesn't look outmatched, the shots just aren't falling. I really thought UC San Diego was going to make a comeback, and obviously they did. They ended up winning. I don't even know what the halftime line was, but I was pretty mad I didn't. I had Michigan -1.5 pregame. I was kind of mad I didn't come back in on get UC San Diego a plus money. So I guess those are a couple of things I would look for, but there's just so much going on. So many bullets flying, especially this first weekend, that I'm not firing a ton on halftime.
K4Wins.com, K4, the number 4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. We change numbers, change games, change picks throughout the day. So check into our website as often as you possibly can. It's a free site. And of course, you can certainly subscribe. We got some great writing, some great blogs up there. Kip has written a couple things as well as Case. And Kai and I will follow up with the pen here in the next few days. Let's go ahead and look at some ball games. I want to start with you, Case, only because I wanted to know, first of all, I'm a Xavier Musketeer fan. I'm happy we just got in. Now they're taking on Illinois a little bit later on this afternoon. I think they're catching 4.5. Kind of wanted to know what numbers you had on that game, whether you got a play in that game. And then obviously this show will be running sometime middle of Friday afternoon. We still have Norfolk. We have Florida later on tonight, Troy, Kentucky later on tonight, New Mexico, Marquette, some nighttime games, and of course the whole host of games on Saturday. McNeese, Purdue, Arkansas, St. John's, Michigan, A&M, Duke, Texas Tech, Creighton, Auburn, BYU, Whiskey, Zags, Houston, and UCLA, and Tennessee. Let's go around the horn. Give me your plays. Case, start there. Throw me a bone with the Xavier Musketeers. Fremantle, is Conwell kids playing out of his brain? Do they have a shot against the Fighting Illini today?
Yeah, certainly have a shot. I guess because it's the first 4 game, I haven't been as honed in on the market of this game, and I haven't bet anything, so that's why. But I didn't realize it had gotten there. I do see some 4.5s out there, still mostly 4s. Actually, when I wrote about this game and when it first opened, it was only 3, and I definitely leaned Illinois. I picked Illinois at 3, but it wasn't enough for me to bet. Kind of surprised they've taken this much action. I think it's pretty close to a coin flip. I would say like one possession. I do think Illinois is. Man, they're just really high variance. They have really high ceiling, really low floor. I think they're super young. They shoot a lot of threes, but I think they can be dangerous in the right situation. So I ever so slightly lean. Actually, at 4.5. I mean, now I might if that number, I might ever so slightly lean Xavier, but expect Illinois to win outright. But that is not a game I bet. However, I think whoever wins this game is going to have a really good chance to get to the Sweet 16. I think I have Illinois in the Sweet 16 in my bracket. I did have them knocking off Kentucky. I guess this goes back to the Texas Xavier game. I would rather have Illinois players than Kentucky's. I mean, they got a couple. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but the two European guys, the big guy, the big man, and the 3-point shooter, two NBA guys. So I think if I'm Kentucky, I don't really want to see Illinois. I feel like that's a plus matchup for Illinois. They play similar style to Kentucky. So nothing there. I did bet Kentucky in that game later today. I have Kentucky -10. It's now 11.5. Still slight lean to Kentucky, but I don't know. I don't necessarily love all the Troy love. So we'll see there Saturday. I know that's mainly what we're talking about when it's going to get posted. Yeah, I've made a few bets. One that's really moved against me that I bet right away is I like Purdue against McNeese State. I laid 6.5. It's now 5.5, so not a very good bet by me. But I don't know. We talked about McNeese wearing down on the second half. I feel like Clemson and even some of these other teams, I know they kind of played Alabama tough. So that was different. But even some of the other better teams step up in competition. They haven't really played a great offensive team. I just think Purdue's had their defensive woes, but they have just some really high-level offense with Smith, Lawyer, and Kaufman-Wren. McNeese's defense really isn't that great, so I kind of like Purdue in that spot. And the other bet I've bet the biggest, you're probably going to have to swear me off of betting this team if they cover again. I was hoping they got a different matchup, but this has moved a little in my direction. But I bet Arkansas +7.5 against St. John's. I wanted to see how it looked with Boogie Fland out there, and it was a little bit clanky. I mean, they had some great runs where it looked like they just had so much talent that they looked right on par with ultra disappointing Kansas team talent-wise, and they had some where it didn't look like they know what they were going on. St. John's does the same thing every game. It seems like they look totally human in the first half. Looks like they could lose to anyone, including Omaha, and then they just go absolutely insane and look like a different team in the second half. But I don't know. I feel really strongly that St. John's is going to meet their match somewhere along the way here, and I thought 7.5 was too much, so I bet Arkansas in that game. Those are the two biggest ones. I don't know. Kit mentioned I think Houston Gonzaga is the clear best game on the board. I mean, by a lot of like efficiency metrics and analytics, is one of the best round of 32 games ever. I mean, Gonzaga is like a top 10 team by any metric you look at. They've been knocked down to the 8 seed because they lost some games in overtime. Like, oh, the horror. So I'm worried about this game. I shouldn't be because I have a lot of Gonzaga futures as well as Houston. But just all year I've been banging the Houston drum, written up how much I like them, how I think they're just as good as any of the other 1 seeds that get more praise than them. But I mean, this is scary. They could easily lose this game. It opened 5.5, and I would actually lean Gonzaga at 5.5. I only made it 3.5, so I expect Houston to win, but it to be close. Also kind of lean Texas A&M against Michigan. I used the Michigan San Diego. I wrote up that it was going to be a war just through the way the teams played. I really wish I saved that description for this game because Michigan has those big guys that gobble up everything inside, but Texas A&M is just the most physical, seems like annoying team to play in the country. So I don't know. This could be a real rock fight, but ultimately, I trust Texas A&M a little bit more, so lead Texas A&M in that one.
St. John's, the Johnny's one of those teams a lot of people have going as a sexy Final Four team. Every time I see Rick Pitino, and I used to follow him, I used to work up in the Louisville, Kentucky area, and he looks like a skeleton walking in the sidelines. I can't even tell what all I can think about is him getting it done on a table in a Louisville restaurant. Which happened years ago, and I still,
dessert after the Italian delightful meal.
Yeah, please, can I have a salad fork? No, you're good. I think so. Yeah, but St. John's, they've lost 4 games by a total of 7 points. And he even said it at halftime yesterday. He said, we're a lousy shooting basketball team. They shouldn't be here. If they're that bad at the Big East, they shouldn't be there. So they figured something out. They do look human in the first half somehow. Maybe they're doing something at halftime. I don't know. I want to go to our SEC specialist, Kip Keefer. He's been on fire in the SEC. Creighton, I've been on Blue Jays all year long. They get it done the first round, and now they're catching 9.5 against an Auburn squad. I know we mentioned they lost 3 of their final 4 games. They obviously got back and got a little ripe yesterday against Alabama State, but it was still Alabama State. They're giving the Creighton, which I think is a top 10 team, 9.5 points. Start with there, and then give me some of your best plays for later on tonight and Saturday.
Well, I mean, for today, I'll quickly tell you that I would take Robert Morris in the points. I mean, Alabama can be also ultra explosive, of course, but this is a very quality team. And I know they don't play a very good schedule and they're not in a very high profile league. But any team that's won 30 games and is coming in on an 11-game winning streak, I've got respect for.
There you go.
Basketball is a tough game to compile those kind of streaks. So 20 and a half, that just seems like an awful lot of points, just like Auburn yesterday. No disrespect, but giving Alabama State 32 and a half was comical to me because those kids played like they had nothing to lose. It's a school they're right down the street from. They're familiar with them. They played loose and covered by 11 points. So I think it's going to be similar today. Alabama wins, but I don't think they win by that much. I agree with you, Tony, on Liberty. I think this is a really quality team that's going to be a pain to get out of the tournament. Oregon, I have not seen play, to be honest, very much this year, but just following their results, I don't think they look ominous. So Liberty's catching 4 or 5 points or whatever in that game, and I do like the Flames to go forward there. And I'm trying to think of the other one that I had off the bat, but that's a couple today. Tomorrow, I think Houston will take care of Gonzaga. I told Case on our last broadcast that the grade Z announcers that on True TV for that game, who I had no idea who they even were, spent the entire pregame telling about what a bad shooting team Gonzaga was. How they only made one 3-pointer in their conference tournament final. They made 11 in the first half against Georgia. Case said the rims were soft in Wichita. Well, that might have been true on Gonzaga's end. On Georgia's end, there was a toilet lid over the rim because they only at one point it was 27-3. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So I think Houston is really playing great basketball. Gonzaga has the pedigree, but that line may be a little skimpy in terms of I don't think it's enough. So that's the game I'm really eyeballing for tomorrow. I'm not sure anybody that I'm terribly confident in until I really sit down and look at them for Saturday's matchups. But again, I think the top tier SEC teams are going to continue to progress. I think the league is that good at the top. The middling teams, the other game that I was going to mention today, I think Kai's on board with me on that. I don't like how Vanderbilt's playing. I think they've been pretty mediocre down the stretch. And St. Mary's, we just saw Gonzaga, who was undervalued. I think St. Mary's from the same league, probably the same way. That line's only 4.5. I'll take the St. Mary's Gales big time over Vandy today as my other best bet.
Vandy did have 5 wins against ranked teams this year. You mentioned Liberty. I've kind of got them. It's the only game I really got. It's going kind of far. I got them playing Duke for an Elite Eight possibility. Their second effective field goal percentage and 5th overall in 3-point percentage. It scares me whenever I see a team that plays really well 3-point. Because, like I said, you live and die by it. If you're not hitting your spots, and again, you're playing in bit different arenas, neutral sites, and bigger arenas, sometimes that 3-point shot looks like it's a 4-point shot when you're shooting it out of your hands. So you can't really tell, but I like Liberty a lot. Kai, what you like? What's bouncing out to you today? Who you like here as we get ready for our next round of great games here in March Madness?
Tell you what, I'm really looking forward to watching Marquette and New Mexico. We talked about it Tuesday, 2 of the best point guards in the country going at it. I'm looking forward to that. If I got to bet it, I'm going to play Marquette. I like UConn over Oklahoma. If I can ever bet on the best effing coach in college basketball, I mean, he said it to a ref, so it has to be true. So I'm going to bet on Hurley and UConn, obviously there. I think Illinois is going to handle Xavier. Honestly, I don't want to – I'm not going to bet it just out of respect for you, Tony.
No, like said, hey, there's no respect on this stinking show. Fuck you. You play the damn thing. If you making some cash, hey, listen, I know some people that bet against Alabama every weekend in college football season. That way, if Alabama wins, they're happy, and if Alabama loses, they're happy. Man, go for it.
I agree. I'm not necessarily loving and thinking that giving Troy the love, but they do shoot the ball well. Kentucky, unless they show up and play the defense they played against Alabama one game, I think that game goes over. I really like that play. I have switched to North Carolina. Some of the others, I might bet Alabama's total, maybe, but I don't really like anything in that game. I do like St. Mary's there. I did bet Colorado State. I did pick them. I like Lipscomb getting the points. For tomorrow, I mean, obviously I like my Vols, but, that could be my heart. So I don't. I try not to wager on them as much as humanly possible, but I may team totals, or when I get good information, wager against them in any sport. And then again, if I win, I'm happy. I'm looking forward to the Michigan Texas A&M game. I think Texas A&M misses too many shots to win that game. I think they'll be physical, but they missed so many shots. I couldn't wager on them. If I can get Creighton at 10, I'm taking that. BYU Wisconsin over, and I think Houston beats Gonzaga by 10.
That Michigan A&M, no one's given Michigan any love. They only lost 9 games all year long, and of course, everyone was against them in the first round. Now they're taking on A&M squad, actually catching 2.5. And A&M, they ranked 317th in effective field goal percentages. That is the actual amount of percentages, or based in playing styles, how many field goals they'll make in a certain period of time. They ranked 317th. They're not a very good shooting team, is what I said. And of course, they went 2-5 their last 7 in the season, the regular season, which I always like to look at. That was a stat that everyone in the committee looked at, last 10. Remember, everyone used to look at the last 10 games. Look at the last 10 games. Look at the last 10 games. We don't do that anymore. But I'd have to, yeah, they should. I'd have to lean A&M a little bit. I think that Texas Tech squad, a team that no one's talking about. I'm not sure why they don't. They're good.
They put up 46 threes last night. That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. By the way, that is not the record. The record is, and I was asking my son, the record is like 111 3-pointers by some team in D3. And they only scored 138 points. They put the ball up 111 times beyond the arc and put up 138 points. I forget what that line was. It happened in 1992 or something like that. I'm not sure. I cannot believe that the Blue Jays are catching 9.5 against the Auburn Tigers. I almost want to leave this game alone just because it doesn't look right.
Remember, they beat UConn, Tony, in the Big East tournament, and people are kind of ignoring that. That was pretty
great guard play. They got a couple of guys that could really shoot it from 3. Maybe I'll put 50 or 60 bucks on it just to have something to write on, so I feel good about it. But I can't imagine them not covering the 9.5. Purdue, I think, I don't know enough about Purdue really, but McNeese State, again, I think they played the SEC incredibly well, so I kind of like them plus the 6.5 a little bit. I'm not going to mess with St. Johnny's and Arkansas just because I don't like either of the coaches on either sides. And then that Houston Zags game, I know we haven't talked a lot about the Zags this year. Mark Few, I think, is one of the best coaches in all of sports. I think he's fantastic. Of course, got with Gonzaga back in 1999. He's been there for 26 years. He's fantastic. And then I think, and I'm going to be there, and so if I'm there, I've got to lay some action on it. But Tennessee and UCLA, I will give you respect, and I will play Tennessee minus the 4.5 just because I love you and you're part of the show, and I also kind of lean that way. Dr. Josh Claypo, who's a guy I've done tons of radio with, UAB clinical psychologist, one of my best buds. He is a UCLA grad, so I'd love to stuff it in his face. Although, if UCLA wins and Xavier wins, we could have a Xavier-UCLA matchup, which would be a lot of fun going into a Sweet 16, so it should be good stuff. Guys, great stuff. I think we're going to try to do another show, not to put anybody on the spot, Case. But if you can go Tuesday again, that'd be fantastic. I'd love to get it. I would listen. I could do a show with you guys like 3 or 4 hours a day, and I know we're going to hit 67, 68%. So we're doing our listeners and our viewers a big service here. Go to K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Make sure you check us out. Another show coming up here shortly. Thank you, gentlemen. March Madness rolls on. Thank you.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.